Now let's head into the two Japanese rooms on the first floor. For context, the Hanare is down at that end, and this is the main two-story house. This is the first floor of the two-story part. So we open up these shoji, which have been recovered, that were, they had fallen apart when we first moved in. A lot of the paper was ripped and old, so these have been recovered. And then, when we head in, we have this beautiful Japanese room. And this is largely, from the floor up, what was here before. A lot of it's just been refurbished or cleaned, but a lot of this was already here. The big exception is the tatami mats. So when we pulled up the old tatami, the floor underneath had been eaten by termites, and so I had to take the floor all the way down to the dirt and rebuild back up again. So that's rebuilding the lattice structure underneath, called obiki and neda, and then you put plywood on top of that, or planking traditionally, but we put plywood down, and then the new tatami on top of that. So it's like building a deck indoors in terms of the way the structure is. So underneath, there used to be lots of vertical, just wooden posts that were set on rocks. But to redo those takes a lot of time and effort. So when we remade them, we put them on concrete piers with metal uprights. And the metal uprights, as opposed to the wood, are a lot more bug resistant. So then this would have been the main area where the family would spend a lot of time, because the other area was the clinic, because this was a former clinic and residence for the country doctor. So this would have been where the family would spend a lot of time. So these are flexible spaces where you'd sit, have tea, have lunch, sit and chat. This would be where guests come, because this area over here is the main tokonoma for the house. So this would have been sort of the seat of honor here. We would have a display here, and so they put a lot of time and effort into having these beautiful reliefs cut into the ramma. So this is, carved wood put on top of a kumiko structure with paper behind it. And then they would have these as well, small ones that slide open to reveal the large fountain, which was where people would have washed their hands in that rock with a basin carved out when they came in for tea ceremony. On the tokonoma, so often there will be one that's extra special piece of wood that they will use as the primary vertical support next to the tokonoma. And this is, we believe, it's an ebony wood. And then we were able to find an artisan locally who handcrafts these paper lanterns. So it's easy to find mass-produced ones these days. This one is a little bit different in terms of we wanted to support a local artisan. A lot of these kind of rooms they have these beautiful transoms up here. And this allows the cross ventilation to come in and still allows for some privacy. You can see that some of them over the years have broken a little bit and that kind of thing. So we'll just leave those. It's part of the history of the house. When you bend wood like that, eventually it does get brittle. And then we have the shoji screens. These are slightly special in terms of, these are called yukimi. So when you lift up this panel, then when you're sitting on the ground, you can look out into the garden. So this would have traditionally, the traditional name of yukimi is actually like snow viewing. So some people would sit in the winter, had this closed for a little bit of warmth, not a lot of warmth, but a little bit of warmth, and they could still look out. One of the things about this right now is it will stay up, but it's very, there was a bamboo piece that would have been in there, in the sides, it was embedded, that would keep it up with tension, but over the years that's become weak and it's very hard to change. So we're looking for some sort of solution to be able to make these stay up. Right now when you put them up, they won't just drop right back down again. This is an 8 tatami room. It's also connected to an additional 6 tatami room. So this is where, during the construction of the other part of the house, I've been sleeping, and so inside this wall over here, this is closet space where we store the futons and that kind of thing. And then this, we found this beautiful. It's called Hokkaido Minge, is the name of the style of this piece of furniture. So this is an antique small vanity. And these all then open back up again. I'm going to keep these open because it gets hot in here. So these all open up to our backyard. So over here is the inner courtyard. And over there is the hamare, the separate building, which is where we've been living a bit. And everything is connected by these engawa. One of the interesting things about this house is these beams up above. So this is unusual in terms of construction. Normally you would have this, and then you would have it just run up to where the upper header would be. But this one, they put in these giant beams that just run the entire length of the engawa. And on the upper parts, they also did this kind of very complicated construction.
So normally it would not, there would be no beam?
Normally the beam would be more like this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this, when you have a big one like this, it requires a whole different construction because this is carrying all the weight.
Right.
And interestingly, as the beam goes down, it gets narrower, just as a net tree naturally does. So each of these transoms, rama, as they go down, they change in terms of their size. So you can't put one in the other place and interchange them. They're all designed exactly for the space that they're in. This one. So they carved a groove into that big upper beam. It's interesting to see how the vertical beams, these beams, they had to be hand carved to fit in this space. So the carpenters who have come to visit the house and work on the house, when they see touches like this, even they are surprised. They say, we just don't see this anymore. And a lot of these old houses that did have this kind of construction have been lost. They've been knocked down over the years. So at least one of these houses, at least one more, is going to be preserved.
And there's what the room looks like all opened up. And it's full. There you go. And this is how we usually have the rooms during the day. Just a nice open area.
Yeah. And this is also unusual in terms of the height of the ceiling. This is a very, very high ceiling for a Japanese home. So I'm 6 feet tall, so that's that's probably a 10-foot ceiling, 9 foot maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And this room is it's still slightly angled. But what I did is I sort of split the difference between how much it was angled and what would flat would look like. Because if you brought it all the way to flat, it would feel a little bit strange. And if you leave it completely as it was, it would feel strange also. So we kind of split the difference.
It would feel strange flat?
Yeah, because you would be flat, but the room around you would be tilted slightly.
Oh, right.
So this is our first floor Japanese rooms. We're leaving this as tatami, and we're leaving the rooms directly above it as tatami. But these would be the only tatami rooms in the house. So this is 8 and 6 for 14. Above is 8 and 6 for 28, which represents only half of the amount of tatami that were in this house when we first moved in. There were 54 tatami in this house. So we've converted some into Western style flooring. And that's the first floor, Japanese rooms.